Hi, I'm Morgan, and today we're going to show you how to change the gear cables on your road bike. With wear and tear, your cable may sometimes break inside the housing. Don't worry, even if this manipulation takes a certain amount of time, it's not too hard. Word of advice, you should change the gear cables of both derailleurs if you have to change one. For this manipulation, you're going to need about 30 minutes. It's pretty easy, and you won't need any help. Tool-wise, you're going to need a cable cutter, a 2 and a 4mm Allen key, gear cables, so cable and housing, and some cable ends. Before all that, we already took out the grip to have better access to the cables and housing. First step, we're going to disconnect both cables with the 4mm Allen key, starting with the rear one. Now, the front one. Once both cables are disconnected, we're going to cut both ends to get the cable out. If your cable is slightly bent or damaged like this, you should cut a bit higher to facilitate the extraction process. Same thing for the front cable. When both cables are disconnected, we're just going to take the housing off the rear cable. When it's off, we're going to be able to remove the cable from the bike by pulling it from the front. Now we can remove the housing entirely from the cable of the front derailleur. Same thing with the rear derailleur's cable. When the housing is off, we can gently push on the cable to remove it from the other side. Once the head of the cable is showing, we can pull the cable out completely. Same operation with the rear cable. Get the head out and pull. When the cables and housing are out, we can now install the new ones. It's the same operation in reverse. Once the rear derailleur's cable is installed, we can follow with the front one. When both cables are installed, it's time to put the housing on. Little tip here. If you feel like the gear shifting is a bit rough, slow, or inconsistent, we strongly recommend changing your housing to get a smoother experience. For the purpose of this video, we're going to reinstall the same housing since it's in perfect condition. When you're done with the coating of the front derailleur's cable, you can do the same thing for the rear one. Now you can finish off on the shifter by putting the cap and the coating back. And voila, both cables are linked to the shifters. and the housing is on the cables. Before passing the cables through the frame, we're going to get those plates off to facilitate the operation. Careful to extract both bolts before removing the plates. After removing the plates, you're going to be able to pass the cables through the frame. Respect the same order for the passing of the cables to get a smooth gear shifting experience. So, you're going to push the cable through the frame until it gets out the other side. Once out, you can plug the housing directly on the frame. Same thing for the rear cable. Pass it through the frame and then connect the housing. Once both cables are out on the bottom of the frame behind the crankset, we're going to be able to pass the cables through the cable guide. When everything is through, we're going to put the cable back in the frame to get it out above the crankset. Don't forget to clip the cable guide back. Now we can move the rear cable all the way to the derailleur. Once the rear cable is through, we can install the cable housing. When you're done installing the cable and the housing, don't forget to screw the bolts of the cable guide back. Now you're going to be able to connect the cable to the rear derailleur. Put it through and secure it. Last step, we're going to cut the cable to the right length and put the end cap in place so that it doesn't fray over time. Now that the rear cable is properly installed on the derailleur, we're going to do the same thing for the front one. See? Even though it took some time, it was pretty easy to do. Now, of course, if you don't feel comfortable doing this yourself, don't hesitate to come to the shop. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.